Hey, welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
If you're gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Why, hey there, my fabulous listener. Welcome to episode 261 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Thank you, as always, for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices of things to do with your time, but also podcasts to listen to. So I really do appreciate you making my podcast one of them today. If you are enjoying the podcast, then I would love to get to know you like you get to know me a little bit more every week. So if you can send me an email, send me a shout out, take a screenshot of you listening to this and tag me on social media, that would be super, super cool. I'm basically at Jen Donovan on most of the platforms that you will be on as well. Of course, all the show notes for today's podcast can be found at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/261. And I think it might be a good episode to be looking at those show notes, because today we're talking all about everything you need to know about generational marketing. Now, I'll tell you a little bit more about generational marketing shortly. But before I do that, did you get a chance to listen to my amazing conversation with Wendy Lloyd-Curley from Strategic Networking that I did last week, so episode 260? It was a great chat. I really love everything Wendy does, and she's so generous with her information and just her way of talking about networking and doing it strategically. So make sure after you've listened to this, you head back there if you haven't listened in. But of course, before we get started, I wanted to shout out to this week's podcast sponsor, Turn Back Time Radio. My friend and great supporter of everything that Jen Donovan does, Neil Butler, is Turn Back Time Radio, and he's here to tell you a little bit more.
Are you tired of listening to the same old radio stations, the same sound, the same tired jokes presented by the same voices? Then have I got some news for you. Turn Back Time Radio is here, playing the very best music of the past 70 years, 24 hours a day, 7 days per week. No ads and no presenters talking over the tracks. Just songs you know, back to back to back. You can download the free Turn Back Time Radio app for your Apple or Android device and listen wherever you go. And unlike the streaming services, it won't cost you a single cent to listen. Free to listen, songs you know, uninterrupted 24/7. This is radio as it should be. Find out more about Turn Back Time Radio on our website at www.turnbacktime.radio. Turn Back Time Radio. Great music, great times. It's radio as it should be.
Of course, you can support Turn Back Time Radio by going to turnbacktime.radio on the interwebs, and then you can see there everything about it, about their programs, how to listen, any updates, everything. So I would love you to support Neil and Turn Back Time Radio. Thanks, Neil, for supporting the podcast. Now, as you may or may not know, I'm writing a book. Well, actually, the book's written. It's now in editing stage. And I should have a printed book in my hand by mid-November, which is way exciting, my friend. My book will be called something like Small Town, Big Impact, 107 Simple Marketing Strategies for Regional Business Success. Now, I'm not 100% sure of the title. That is the working title we are working with at the moment, but we are definitely getting there with the book. But when I finished writing my book, it was 95,000 words long. Now, that's pretty big, my friend, in case you've never written a book. And my editor said in very strong terms, get it down to 65,000. So I had to cut 30,000 words from my book. Now, I did it. There was a lot of tears, but I did do it. And my book coach did tell me that apparently a good sign of a good author is that they are able to write everything that's important into a book and then only leave the really important stuff in for the print version. So some content didn't make the book, and I have a point here. I promise this isn't a podcast about my book, but it's I guess, like I said, not all content made it to the book. And just because it didn't make it to the book doesn't mean it's not good content. It just wasn't the right fit for that book that I was writing. And today's episode is actually one of those chapters that didn't make it to the book. And so, I'm the repurposing queen. So I'm like, I've already written this chapter. It would make a great blog, and it would make an even better podcast. So generational marketing did not make it into the book, but it's made it into the podcast for you and I today. And basically, we're talking about generational marketing and the impact the different generations have on our marketing strategies. It's all about knowing your ideal client and knowing which marketing strategies will work best for them. So, for context, the generations are the silent generation, which is pre 1945. Then we have the baby boomers that go up to 1964, Generation X that go up to 1980, of which I am one of those, millennials who are from 81 to 95. Gen Z from 96 to 2009, and now we are in the Alpha Gen, also known as the iPad kids. So, in point form, I'm going to just go through examples of the different marketing strategies and how marketing differs for the different generations. So, I want you to be thinking in your head, who is your ideal client? As you listen to this podcast, I want you to imagine who your ideal client is. Yes, you may have one, you possibly might have two ideal clients. So, keep them in your head and make sure your ears prick for when we get to their generation. We're going to start off with the baby boomers. So baby boomers are 1946 to 1964. So they enjoy traditional advertising channels and they work well. So baby boomers are more accustomed to traditional advertising channels such as TV commercials, radio spots, print advertisements. And including these channels in your marketing can really mix reaching each generation, I guess, especially this generation, more effectively. But also, baby boomers hold the qualities of trust and reliability really dear to them. So this generation values trust and reliability in brands. It highlighting your brand story, your brand history, its longevity, and sharing customer testimonials are persuasive to baby boomers. They also appreciate a clear and informative messaging and personalization. They really love that personal touch to their marketing, addressing them by name and tailoring offers based on their preferences works really well for baby boomers. There has to be an online and offline balance, though. Though lots of baby boomers are now online, they may prefer a slower paced online experience. So you need to make sure that you have that mixture of online and offline. And when you look at your website, for instance, if baby boomers are your ideal client, you've got to make sure your website is easy to navigate and doesn't overwhelm them with flashy little elements that might be really super cool to you, but it's not about you. It's about them. It's about your ideal client. So you've got to make sure you have that real balance. My mum is online. My dad has a flip phone. So yes, baby boomers do vary in their ability to embrace, I guess, new technologies. All right, so the second generation is Generation X from 1965 to 1980. This is my generation. Possibly even your generation. Okay, so we like authenticity and we really value real life experiences. So Gen X appreciates brands that understand their life experiences. Using real life scenarios, relatable content in relation to your marketing campaigns works well for Gen Xers. We want convenience and we want to save time. As busy individuals, we appreciate, I should say they, this isn't all about me, they being Generation X. They appreciate time saving products and services. Emphasize how your product or how your offerings can make their life easier or simpler. Think about the benefits, not just the features of products and services you are trying to sell to Gen X. We like email and social media engagement. These are good strategies for Gen Xers. Email marketing can be effective with this generation. Engage them through social media platforms like Facebook and LinkedIn, but lead them to your email. We Generation X, I nearly said we. Generation X also loves a bit of nostalgia marketing. Nostalgia elements can really resonate with Generation X, and they often feel a connection to the past. So incorporating kind of retro themes where appropriate. You just think the Barbie movie, like it's nostalgia marketing that got most of us to the theater. Alrighty, the next generation is millennials, 1981 to 1995. Okay, so they're all about social media marketing and influencers. Millennials are highly active on social media, making it an essential marketing platforms. But you've got to know which platform. Are they still in Facebook groups or have they moved on to TikTok? Like, you've got to know this. And collaborating with influencers can really boost your brand awareness if you are targeting millennials. They also like value-driven purchases. They tend to support brands that align with their own values, such as sustainability, social responsibility, and inclusiveness or inclusivity. This is a great lesson. Make sure your brand values are obvious to your customers and to your clients, making sure we know what you stand for in your business. Do I know what you stand for by looking at your socials or your website or other places that you show up? If millennials are your target, that is what you've got to do. Millennials also appreciate experiences over possessions. If you've ever tried to buy a present from a millennial, you will probably already know this. So emphasize, the experiences and the emotional value that your product or your services bring to the table. Highlight how they contribute to personal growth or experiences with family and friends. And millennials also love a bit of UGC, some user generated content. So encourage more user generated content in your marketing. It builds trust and it builds authenticity. Millennials appreciate seeing real customers' experiences with your brand. All right, two more to go. Generation Z and Generation Alpha. So that's basically 1996 to today. And of course, these are mobile first babies. These are the first generation of mobile natives. They grew up with mobile phones. Everyone else prior to this, we've kind of learnt it. These people have actually grown up on it. So make sure your website and your marketing materials are optimized for mobile devices. This is necessary for all generations, really, to give that good experience. But if your target audience is Gen Z and Gen Alpha, making sure that you have everything mobile friendly is essential. They also like things visual and in bite-sized amounts of content. They prefer visual content such as short videos, stories, memes, and basically they utilize things like TikTok and Instagram Reels to engage them. I'm sure there are many other platforms my children, who are this generation, speak about that I don't even know that they exist. So you've got to make sure you do your research. They're also very socially conscious and they like to support socially conscious brands. Um, they're concerned about social issues. So making sure that your brand has a commitment to relevant causes that Gen Z and Gen Alpha would be interested in if they are your target audience. And of course, they love themselves a bit of interactive marketing, experiences, quizzes, challenges, gamification. These are all the things that can really help attract um, this particular generation with marketing. Okay, now the last generation is we've actually gone all the way back to the beginning. So seniors or the silent generation, which is a really sad way of describing them. But these are pre-1945 people. They like tailored products and services. The products and services need to cater for their specific needs, such as accessibility features or senior discounts. They like clear and simple communication. So use straightforward language, avoid jargon, and avoid complicated technical terms. Watch the ads on TV for funeral insurance. If you've ever been home during the day, you'll see their marketing communication style. That is the style that will reach this generation. They need physical touch points. So, since digital technologies might pose a challenge to this generation, offer physical touch points as well, such as brochures and direct mail, because these can be super valuable if your audience is this particular generation. Now, of course, the caveat on all of this, remember that individual preferences can clearly vary within each generation. No two people are the same, and some are really quite some are really quite tech savvy and really open to other types of marketing. But it's up to you to know your ideal audience. It's up to you to know where you should be marketing to these people. So stay to date with current trends and insights. Do some research, find out who your target audience is, and refine your marketing approach to these people over time. Now, one of the biggest questions that I get asked when I talk about generational marketing is, Jen, I only have X amount of time and X amount of money in my budget, in my marketing budget. How can I use these different marketing strategies for different generations without getting overwhelmed? This is such a great question, isn't it? Because really, we just need to boil down who our ideal client is and spend our marketing budget marketing to those particular people because they are your people, they are your buyers. Right. Let's just run through a few tips on how you can not get overwhelmed and that you can really start to work out your generational marketing. So, the first tip will be no surprise. Understand your target market and which generation you want to reach. Which are your buyers? Focusing obviously specifically on segments that will allow you to tailor your marketing efforts more effectively because you know who they are and where they hang out. Invest in well-designed, mobile-friendly website. It serves as a hub for your business. It is your real estate. Social media you do not own. Your website is your little piece of real estate. It also gives customers of all generations a place to come and learn more about your products and services. Tip number 3, social media platforms provide cost effective ways to reach different generations. So identify which platforms are your target audiences on and focus your efforts there. I know it sounds obvious, but it's not always obvious. Tip number 4, create valuable and engaging content that resonates with your target audience. This can include blog posts, infographics, videos, and more, but you've got to know what they will click on, what they will read, what they will pick up. As far as your content marketing goes, you need to work this out so you can build brand authority and, of course, attract organic traffic. Tip number 5, encourage customers to create content related to your brand and share their experiences with your brand. Again, UGC, user generated content, because it builds trust and authenticity and, frankly, is pretty low cost and maybe even free marketing that you can do. Tip number 6, rather than big name influence, work with micro influencers who might have a smaller but highly engaged following. Or think about your team, your family, your friends. These are all micro influencers in your sphere. How can you use them to help market your business? Tip number 7, use email marketing to nurture relationships with your existing customers and, of course, potential leads. It's a really cost effective way to send personalized offers and, of course, updates, which works with most generations except the younger ones. They probably don't read email. Tip number 8, engage with your local community through events, sponsorship, and partnerships. Community involvement can really create a positive word of mouth experience for potential new customers and, of course, create brand loyalty as well. Tip number 9, look for marketing messages and themes that have cross generational appeal. Put your marketing hat on when you are watching TV, when you are scrolling through socials, when you're listening to the radio, reading blogs, or other content online. Really read them as a marketer, thinking, who is this for? And what generation is this for? And does this have cross generational appeal? Tip number 10, take advantage of free marketing tools and resources available online. For instance, use social media scheduling tools, use free graphic design software, and of course, Google Analytics to track your website's performance. Tip number 11, experiment with different marketing tactics and measure their effectiveness. Focus on the strategies that bring the best results and optimize your marketing efforts accordingly. Tip number 12, encourage satisfied customers to refer your business to their friends and family. Positive word of mouth can be very powerful and very cost effective marketing tool. Do you have a strategy where you are encouraging your customers to actually, refer you to their friends and family? If you want to grow, one of the best ways that you can grow. Tip number 13, well, there's only 2 more to go, I promise. Attend local networking events, join business associations, and collaborate with neighbouring businesses to extend your reach within the community. And last one, pay attention to online reviews and respond to them appropriately. Positive reviews can attract new customers, while addressing negative reviews can demonstrate your commitment to customer satisfaction. Now, never, ever, 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 ever get into a fight in a negative review. You know, say you're sorry. There's a difference between I'm sorry, it's my fault, and I'm sorry you feel that way. Making sure that you are saying, I'm sorry, you feel that way. But always making sure you're addressing both negative and, of course, positive online reviews wherever they might appear in your business. All right. So we're getting towards the end now, but what I really want you to remember is marketing is an ongoing process. Building a strong presence across different generations takes time. Start small, be consistent, and refine your strategies based on feedback, results, and data. Get your data going. Your data will tell you who you are attracting and who your buyers are. As your business grows, of course, you can gradually allocate more resources to expand your marketing efforts further. Lastly, I'm just going to say not everyone is your ideal customer or your ideal client, and not every generation is your ideal buyer for your product or your service. So don't be everything to everybody. Niche down who you are, and the more you understand your ideal client, your ideal customer, the less overwhelm you will experience with your marketing. I 100% guarantee that. So, does that help? Do you want to have more conversations around generational marketing and what that could look like in your business? If you do, come and join the fun at the fun in the Facebook group, Like-Minded Business Owners. Love to see you over there. Of course, you can find the show notes for this episode, as I mentioned at the very start, at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/261. The show notes might be particularly helpful with this episode because there was a lot to take on board. There was lots of lots of information. So reading through the transcript might actually embed some of the ideas that I've shared with you today. So don't hesitate to go to my website and have a read through the show notes to really start to work out what generational marketing might look like for you. Honestly, I cannot wait to share my book with you in coming months. I will share the whole process from getting it from where it is now to getting it printed in my hot little hands. So stay tuned for that. I hope that you will enjoy hearing all about that journey. You might have a choice if you tune into the podcast. But that's it for episode 261. If you loved this episode and found it valuable, 2 things. I would love you to write a rating and a review, if that's possible where you're listening to it, such as Spotify or Apple Podcasts or on my website. Or I would love you to share it with another small business owner who might really like to learn a little bit more about generational marketing to help them with their marketing. Otherwise, that's it. I will see you back here for episode 262. Thank you, of course, to Turn Back Time Radio for your support. Remember, you can find them at turnbacktime.radio. In the meantime, if we aren't on social, let's get social. On social, you'll find me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. You might even find me over on TikTok these days as well. But whatever you do, remember my small business peep. As my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
No time like the present. Tell it like you feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are. No point in dreaming small.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Yorta Yorta people, on which I record this podcast and conduct my business today, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend this respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today as well.